This is Jeffrey Epstein, and this is Donald Trump. They certainly look like they know each other pretty well, don't they?
The first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and I was 13.
Before the election, Trump and his associates said that they would release all the information about Epstein's private pedophile island and the billionaires who frequented it.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Then things changed.
Attorney General Pam Bondi's Justice Department says there was no incriminating client list.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Over the last few weeks, I've combed through hundreds of documents and even more videos in order to get to the bottom of what we really know about the Epstein list. I'm going to try to answer questions about how close the most notorious sex trafficker in American history was to Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. Whether the world's elite power holders get a free pass to sexually assault underage women, and why both Republicans and Democrats have tried to cover up the story. More than that, I'm going to try to boil down mountains of evidence and theories and speculation around Epstein to try to explain how notorious sex parties on Epstein's island and at his properties in Florida and Manhattan were likely integral to Trump's rise to power, at the same time that they might also turn out to be his undoing. While you have likely seen some of this material before, often in short and disconnected clips on social media, putting it together here in one place reveals a truly disturbing picture. So please bear with me to the end because it only gets more intense and more bizarre and more incriminating as we go deeper. But my legal team has noted that we need a caveat up front, so I'd like to note that everything in this report is my subjective assessment of publicly available materials. Unless otherwise specified, I am not making allegations on specific criminal activity. Everyone, including the President of the United States of America, is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. However, it's important to note that as far as I'm concerned, the most important outcome of this entire episode has almost nothing to do with criminal prosecutions that may or may not happen in the remote future. What I'm interested in, and what I hope you are as well, is how this information illuminates the character of the most powerful man in the world. Trump and Epstein kindled their friendship around 1987, while both men were budding titans of industry. At the time, Trump was the founder of a real estate empire, including a soon-to-be failed casino in Atlantic City and Trump Towers. Meanwhile, Epstein was a private hedge fund manager catering to what he claimed were only billionaire clients. They both bragged in the press about their fondness for beautiful women. Here are Trump's own words as quoted in a 2002 New York Magazine puff piece. "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. Many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life." That's a real quote in a piece that was meant to make Jeffrey Epstein look amazing. Trump solidified his position as a professional judge of women's beauty in 1996 when he became the owner of the Miss Universe competition.
Somebody got very upset with me, a woman. I said, no, this is all about beauty. This has nothing to do about anything else.
Right.
Almost immediately, young models, many as young as 13, started accusing Trump of various types of sexual impropriety. Here is Trump saying as much on the Howard Stern show in his own words.
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. Right, I want to make sure that
you're like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no... Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
And then in another recording on the same show...
Yeah, do you have an age limit, or would you...
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age... I don't want to be
the
like
upper bracket,
Foley with, 12-year-olds.
According to flight logs released by the FBI, Trump flew on Epstein's personal plane at least 8 times between 1993 and 1997, primarily hitching rides between New York and Florida. Epstein bought his private island, Little St. James, the year after the flight log's last entry. This means there are no publicly available flight logs to the island, But Trump did tell the New York Times in 2025 that he had been invited to the island many times.
I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island.
Yeah, he called it a privilege. Well, you are free to take Trump's word on the matter. Many women have come forward saying that Trump had sexually assaulted them in one way or another over the last 30 years. They variously reported that rapes and assaults happened in Epstein's presence and while Trump was all on his own. To date, there are at least 27 public accusations of rape, inappropriate touching, and voyeurism by Trump, including a court case filed by E. Jean Carroll. Now, in a taped deposition to that case, where she claimed that Trump assaulted her at a department store in New York, Carroll's lawyer asked Trump about the allegations. And Trump responded that Carroll enjoyed being raped.
She fainted with great emotion. She actually indicated that she loved it. Okay? She loved it until commercial break. In fact, I think she said it was sexy, didn't she? It was very sexy to be raped. Didn't she say that?
So, sir, I just want to confirm, it's your testimony that E. Jean Carroll said that she loved being sexually assaulted by you?
Well, based on her interview with Anderson Cooper, I believe that's what took place.
The attorney also asked him about the now famous Access Hollywood tape, where he said on a hot mic that he liked to grab women by the pussy.
Grab them by the pussy, you could do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the pussy?
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
In a truly revealing moment, he answers one of the lawyer's questions by telling her that she's not hot enough for him.
You wouldn't be a choice of mine either, to be honest with you. I hope you're not insulted. I would not, under any circumstances, have any interest in you. I'm honest when I say it.
I interpret all of this as the responses of a pathological and dangerous narcissist, a man who has never respected women and uses them as objects for his pleasure. The New York court read his statements in the same way, ultimately finding him liable for sexual assault and ordered him to pay a total of $87 million in damages over the course of 2 trials. In predictable Trump style, he has still not paid any of those penalties, even though he has sued media outlets for reporting on the facts. And this was hardly the first time that Trump's sexual activities wound him up in court. He famously slept with the porn star Stormy Daniels while married to Melania.
If you were so grossed out by him, why did you have sex with him?
I still don't know.
This became a campaign issue in 2016 after he tried to pay Daniels with hush money with campaign funds to prevent her from going public. The case dragged out for years until ultimately resulted in 34 felony convictions.
Former President Donald Trump found guilty on 34 felony counts, the first former president of the United States convicted on criminal charges.
Now, the most notable part of this outcome of the trial is the fact that just a few months later, the court declined to sentence Trump to any penalties at all, despite the conviction. Now, this is proof that he was able to avoid criminal penalties by assuming the presidency. But once he became president, well, Trump had a unique problem. He had spent years suggesting that the Biden and Obama administrations were covering up Epstein's crimes. But now that he was officially in charge of those files, actually it was for the second time he was in charge of them, well, now he's responsible for whatever they contain. And this was a big problem because Attorney General Pam Bondi informed him that his name appeared on the list so many times that she needed to bring in 1,000 FBI agents to work on redacting his name out of them. And that is a whole lot of FBI agents. I mean, how many times does your name need to appear in the files that you need 1,000 people redacting them? Well, no matter how much they try to hide it, Epstein and Trump, they're birds of a feather.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Now, according to the FBI, there are more than 100,000 documents that the DOJ has on Epstein, which means that there's probably some evidence of Trump taking part in the various orgies at Epstein's many properties around America, or else they wouldn't have brought in 1,000 agents to take his name out. After all, there is already an endless stream of photos and videos of the two of them together at various social events. Epstein even claimed that he introduced Trump to his future wife, Melania, who at the time was working as a model in the New York scene.
And Epstein talks about she's introduced by a model agent, both of whom Trump and Epstein are involved with. Epstein says the first time Donald Trump and Melania have sex is on his airplane.
Which brings me to an important aside. Now, you've probably heard about the bawdy Epstein birthday message that the Wall Street Journal says Trump wrote for Epstein on his 50th birthday. The investigative reporter Nina Burley, who I've interviewed on this channel before, notes in her excellent timeline of Trump's relationship with Epstein that there was another creepy poem that is remarkably similar, as she says, in both syntax and language, that appeared in a spread in FHM magazine. The poem actually appears in a caption in this 2-page underwear shot with Melania. Here's how it goes, titled Melania's Lingerie Poem. The gift of imagination is the splendor of the mind. The naked form is beautiful, the lingerie divine. For what stirs more excitement than a gift wrapped up in lace? A woman knows the secrets that makes the heart race. Yeah, totally gross. But just if you can keep in your mind, compare it to the text of the birthday note from the birthday book. Voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything. Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Trump. A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another secret. It's hard to read these words and not want to vomit or scream, because I think we can all guess what the secret is that they shared. It seems to me that it probably has to do with inappropriate relationships with women. But lest I be remiss, it also has to be said that the birthday book also reportedly contains congratulatory messages from a whole host of power brokers across the world, including former President Bill Clinton, the billionaire investor Leon Black, fashion designer Vera Wang, billionaire media owner Mortimer Zuckerman, the billionaire former Victoria's Secret owner Les Wexner, the attorney Alan Dershowitz, the model scout Jean-Luc Brunel, and the billionaire former Microsoft executive Nathan Myhrvold. In full, there's 50 people who chimed in that book. Now, the mere existence of that book is enough for me to think that whatever was going on between Epstein and Trump stains an entire coterie of elite power brokers who believe, and in fact might actually be, above the law. According to a Department of Justice memo released in July of this year, over 2 decades of activity, Epstein trafficked thousands of victims to his various properties, soliciting underage girls to rape and abuse. Notably in that memo, the DOJ also states that there was no incriminating information about who Epstein actually trafficked those girls to, which is to say, the DOJ is effectively saying that Epstein trafficked women to himself, which is a pretty strange outcome for a sex trafficking mastermind with connections to just about everyone in the halls of power. Sex parties, at least as I understand it by their very definition, involve more than one person. Now, this statement even gets more frustrating because we know that the DOJ is sitting on hundreds of gigabytes of security footage, documents, and evidence collected over the years that no doubt sheds additional light on the scope of the operation. Trump has maintained that despite their close relationship and his own openness to dating very young women, he never crossed the line into Epstein's sexcapades.
Yeah, do you have an age limit, or would you?
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age. I don't want to be
the
like
upper bracket,
Foley with 12-year-olds.
The DOJ wants us to believe that they are keeping the files sealed to protect the victims, but anyone looking at the mountain of information that has already come out knows that the reality is that they're probably just protecting perpetrators. Speaker Mike Johnson has said as much before shutting down Congress a week early to prevent a vote that would have disclosed all of the files.
Because you have to protect innocent people's names and reputations whose names might be, as you noted at the outset of the program, intertwined into all these files.
Meanwhile, Trump started spinning a story that the majority of the files were planted by his political enemies in the Biden and Obama administrations, and that they're so hopelessly tainted that, I'm just sorry to say it, they are meaningless.
It's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey, they were run by Garland, they were run by Biden and all of the people that actually ran the government, including the auto pen.
But after claiming that the files are all fake, Trump then directly contradicted himself.
But think of it, those files were run by these people. They were run by my enemy. If there was anything in there, they would have used them for the election.
So on one hand, Trump is saying that the files are all tainted and faked in order to gain a political leg up on him. While on the other, he admits that his enemies never released those files that they painstakingly doctored. So which is it? Were Democrats planting evidence or were they covering it up? Certainly no one would go through the effort of planting evidence in order to not tell anyone about it. That's not why you plant evidence. The most obvious explanation, of course, is that the files themselves are toxic to powerful people in both parties. Releasing it all would undermine both Democrats and Republicans. To which I have to say, let them all burn. If there's a deep state of pedophile power holders covertly raping children because they feel that no one can touch them while they make decisions that predict the fate of the nation, then perhaps we should get that whole group as far away from power as possible. They obviously don't have the best interests of America at heart. I don't think criminal activities are the qualification we are looking for in our political leaders. So if Trump is innocent, let him prove it. Let him prove that he's not in there. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think Trump is innocent. Given what we know about Trump's opinions about women and what we've already gone over, I think it's safe to assume that if he knew that his best friend ran an elite sex party ring, that he would be the first in the door.
That's like an alcoholic. I have many friends, they're wonderful people, they're alcoholics. You put scotch in front of them. It's like, this would be my form of alcoholism.
Which is where one last piece of evidence in the whole Epstein mystery is worth examining in detail. Now, in 2016, a woman identifying herself under the pseudonym Katie Johnson sued Trump, alleging that he raped her at Epstein's mansion in 1994 when she was just 13 years old. She gave video testimony about what happened before she dropped the case after her car was vandalized. She told her lawyer that she feared that she was about to make enemies with one of the most powerful men in the world, one that had already victimized her, and then she disappeared. Now, Trump has stated that this was a hoax, just like he has most everything else that he disagrees with, from the existence of climate change,
global warming, and that a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean,
to recently firing the head of the Department of Labor and Statistics when the job numbers didn't go his way. Well, this is a recording of her testimony where she's blurred out and she's wearing a wig, and there's this strongly worded and sort of weird copyright notice over her face. But look past those for a moment, and I want you to ask yourself this. Is what she is saying fit the character of everything else that we know about Trump?
There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump. I was 13. The first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance, and he basically asked if I could come over and give him a hand job.
She had been lured to the party through a recruiter named Tiffany.
There was, maybe a couple girls that were maybe 14 or 15, but it seemed to me like we were all very young, so. And as far as Donald Trump, he knew that I was 13, and I believe that Tiffany told him he seemed to take a liking to me because I was I was so young, and I was also a virgin, so.
In the video, which is about 45 minutes long, Johnson details 3 events where both Trump and Epstein raped her under the guise of giving her a modeling contract. She claims that Trump demanded that she wear a glove while touching his privates because he was worried about germs. And in another event, she says that Trump demeaned a Mexican girl while forcing her to give him oral sex, telling her that he would call immigration on her if she didn't comply. Finally, she recalls Trump wanted to play out a rape fantasy.
Tiffany approached me about a rape scene that was supposed to be played out, and I didn't like the sound of that at all. I mean, it just didn't seem like a fantasy, and I started to get scared, and he was, basically like ripping my clothes off, and I was actually I got freaked out. I told him that I didn't want to do this. I screamed over for Tiffany. She was like, "Mr. Trump, she's only, this is scaring her." And he's like, "Oh, you shut up too." He just turned into this animal. It was like a completely different person. It was like everyone in the room was scared of him. He ripped off all my clothes, and he started to basically have sex with me, and I was screaming because I'd never had sex before. It was my first time, and Tiffany was yelling at him too. She was saying I was a virgin, and he told us to just shut the fuck up, and just basically took my virginity while I was crying and telling him to stop, and that's basically begging for him to just stop.
Johnson eventually dropped the lawsuit against Trump and disappeared from public eye, never giving up her true identity. All that we have are her lawyer's words that she appeared credible, and the question about whether what she says in this testimony coheres with what we already know about Trump as a person. The Epstein saga is far from over. His changing positions have alienated a large swath of his MAGA base. Now, I've even noticed in my own neighborhood that houses around here that used to proudly fly Trump flags have quietly taken them down. One that used to have 10 flags, from thin blue line things to thin red line to fuck Biden flags, has even replaced all of those flags with rainbows and no kings flags. And that's a big deal. Trump even turned on his followers in social media posts, calling for purity and loyalty tests, the same kinds that he decried against the woke media. Which means to me that this story, it's not going away. In all likelihood, in the next few weeks, Trump will attempt to clear his name by releasing an interview with Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the only person convicted in the Epstein case. Now, she is currently serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking, but has been making appeals to the Supreme Court to have her case dismissed. Just like with Epstein, Trump has been photographed with Maxwell on many occasions, even going as far as saying in multiple interviews that he wishes her well.
I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well. Her boyfriend died in jail, and people are still trying to figure out, how did it happen? Was it suicide? Was he killed? And I do wish her well. I'm not looking for anything bad for her. I'm not looking bad for anybody. And they took that and
she's a child alleged child sex trafficking.
Big deal. But all it is her boyfriend died. He died in jail. Was he killed? Was it suicide?
In late July, officials at the DOJ privately met with Maxwell, but did not release any information about what they talked about. A few days later, on July 29th, her lawyers sent a letter to Congress saying that she was willing to reverse years of taking the Fifth Amendment and instead tell the whole truth. But she had a condition. Her lawyers wrote that if Maxwell were to receive clemency, she would be willing and eager to testify openly and honestly in public before Congress in Washington, D.C. She welcomes the opportunity to share the truth and dispel the many misconceptions and misstatements that have been plaguing this case from the beginning. Even though Congress immediately rejected the offer, every part of this stinks. Just after meeting with the DOJ, she was sent to a minimum security facility in Bryan, Texas, known colloquially as Club Fed, which is likely part of an exchange for information. Her testimony, if it ever appears, will likely echo Republican talking points. It will be all Biden and Clinton involved, and Trump will be mysteriously, suddenly absent. This isn't just a conflict of interest. This is direct evidence of corruption at the highest levels of our Department of Justice. Should Trump offer a pardon to Maxwell or reduce her sentence, then he will be rewarding the only person to have been convicted in relation to this case. And that alone is proof enough that he was in on it all along.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it.
So here's the point that I've been working up to for this whole video. The entire country knows a lot about Trump's character merely from observing him over the last few decades of his political career and on reality TV. We know he lies and gaslights his opponents. We know that he appears to enjoy bullying people that he disagrees with. And we know that he has never felt an ounce of loyalty to anyone in his orbit who wasn't his family. And he generally has low opinions of women. More than that, we know that he rose to power in part because he benefited from the rise of the QAnon conspiracy theory that pushed a bizarre narrative about a cabal of deep state power holders running a cannibalistic pedophile ring that used children's blood to stay young. QAnon feared that a fascist dictator would come to power and use Black Hawk helicopters as a vanguard to impose martial law and destroy the American way of life. They predicted prison camps in every major city. QAnon believed that Trump would break up this cabal and bring the country back into a sense of freedom and order. Now, while this theory is ridiculous in a million ways, there are no secret rape tunnels under Comet Ping Pong in DC, for example, and the blood of children is not a formula for eternal life. But despite their outlandish claims, there does seem to be a kernel of truth to their fears. Is it possible that this conspiracy theory movement ended up installing the very person who most resembled the villain in their nightmare scenario? Could Trump be a sexual predator and serial rapist who accuses his opponents of the very things that he is involved in? Is every accusation an admission? Is he the face of a cabal of power brokers bent on upending American liberty? If one day we actually get a smoking gun in the Epstein case, will the American people actually do anything about it? Well, what do you think? I really want to know, because I'm thinking about maybe doing a future video on how the QAnon conspiracy theory actually looks a lot like with the Trump presidency right now. It's seeming more and more plausible to me every single day. And on that thought, I want to say thank you so much for watching this video about what we know about Trump and Epstein. I have a feeling that there will be more coming out about this soon, and I might have to stick with the story for a little while yet. Now, if you support this kind of independent journalism, let me subtly suggest to you that supporting this channel is one way that you can keep this kind of reporting alive and thriving while so much of the mainstream media is in a death spiral. I'd love you to go check out my free newsletter, Magnetic North, over at Substack, which is sgcarney.substack.com, where you will get my thoughts delivered right to your inbox. Now, my premium subscribers, and they pay about $8 a month, get early access to my videos. There's an online chat community and a warm and fuzzy feeling that you get from being an ever freer thinker. Now, I can't promise you that I get everything right all the time, but I do put my best effort in to make corrections when I catch them. If you want to go check out some videos that I did that are related to this one, I'd love you to go check out my deep dive on the outcome of the 2024 election, how things just don't add up. And, maybe I'll do a new video on how the next election is looking pretty sketchy too. Some election experts think that 2024 might have been stolen, and they have the data to back it up. Well, until then, from PokeyBear LLC in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates. Thank you so much for all of my supporters on Patreon and on Substack who make this work possible. The contributions you give keep this sort of independent journalism on the air, and I really just could not do it without you. If you want to get early access to my work and get your name on the honor roll right over there, please sign up at the links down below. From PokeyBear LLC in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates.